We'll call this morning's meeting to order, and the first item is the approval of the agenda, and we do have one agenda addition this morning, and that is the closed session, which I will read the purpose of that at the time that comes on. We'll put that right at the end.
Move to approve with addition.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Our next item is citizens to be heard. Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of bills and vouchers.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. All right, 35 item, adopt resolution for performance measurement program. Good morning, Darren.
Good morning.
And this is something that we've done for 2 or 3 years now, isn't it?
Yeah, we actually, it's been since 2011.
Oh,
2012.
time flies when you're having fun, I guess.
So, yeah, time flies. Well, thanks for seeing me today. As you know, this is a yearly thing that we have been supplying to the state auditors on a performance measurement program for the county. I think there was some discussion last year of whether it's worth continuing or not. And last year for the 2016, we've received $8,705 from this program. Right now, there's not a lot of counties that participate. This year, or last year, there was 27 counties that participated. We were one of them as well. And what this program does is it takes some measurement items from each of the county departments and kind of tracks them throughout the years to see if we're getting better or worse or trends or that type of thing. At the beginning, it was kind of difficult to figure out what they were actually asking for. But like I said, we've been doing it now since 2011, 2012, and I've pretty much got it templated out now where it's not as difficult as it was when we first started doing it. I have almost all the information for last year's report, which is going to be due on Friday. I just am waiting for one more piece of information, and then I'll submit that as well. But as part of that submission is whether the board wishes to continue this program into next year. And so I know last year there was a little bit of discussion on how many people actually look at this report, read this report and everything. And through IT's wizardry, they figured out that last year's report had 120 views or clicks, whatever, to look at the report itself. This report also entails a county survey that we had online for probably about 4 or 5 months as well. The survey doesn't get as much attention as the actual report. We only had, and we put it online on our external website, right on the front page there, and I think we had like 14 people respond to the survey itself. So I'm here today to see the board's wishes in continuing this program, and if so, then I would submit that to the state on Friday.
I think if the state's willing to pay us $8,700 to do it, I think we make a motion to continue it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Further discussion? I guess that my only thing on this, if it was not being used,
Right.
you know, whether it's state money or not, they probably could have better things to spend their money on if it's not being used, you know, but I guess, I mean,
It's better to spend it here.
if you think that there's a benefit to the county and to our employees or whatever.
Well, yeah, and the way that I have the report set up, it's a templated report. It's information that, some of the information can be got off of the internet anyway. It just brings all that information into one spot. And it doesn't seem like, it seems like the departments are tracking this information anyway, so it's not an additional burdens per se to track this. They probably already have this information. A lot of this is just pulling it from different websites, you know, the Department of Correction, Department of Public Safety, you know, Veterans Affairs, and putting it all into one spot, basically.
Is the annual funding that we receive fairly consistent?
Yep.
Okay.
It's, we get 14 cents per capita
Okay.
So it's about a little over $8,000, or what did I say?
8705.
8705.
Right. Right, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign? Motion carried. Oh, I'm sorry, Brian.
No, that's all right. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to comment on that. When the legislature did pass this, I know Representative Marquardt was very supportive of this and had asked me a couple times if we were going to do it and continue to do it. And what they were trying to do is to assure that the public has access to information that the government is performing, and that's why the state was willing to pay for it. So we are providing it, whether they are checking the website or not. 114 isn't a lot of hits, but at least the legislature is satisfied that we're providing that information as much as possible. So that was kind of the reasoning. So
$80-some a hit, I guess.
yeah, I know, but it's, yeah. Well, we spend the money on other services, though.
I
so.
understand. That's right. Thank you, Brian. All right, we'll move on, and item number 3 is request approval to hire replacement for one full-time female and 2 full-time male correctional officers. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning. We have 3 vacancies. We have 2 of our officers are going back to Wisconsin, and we have one who he decided to go back to school. So it's 2 guys and 1 female, but we can actually fill it with 2 females and 1 guy. And I do have some part-time staff that will be ready to go August 1st. So I am requesting that we replace those positions as soon as possible, and it is a budgeted position, and there should be some cost savings involved.
Well, I think, so from our standpoint, you want to replace the 3, and the gender thing is up to you on
Yep.
what works best. I don't
Yeah.
think we need to be saying 2 and 1 or whatever, then I think,
I just want to clarify, I had asked for 2 males, but
okay,
I'll switch it.
Move to approve.
all right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? All right.
Thank you.
All right, Julie.
This wasn't Canuck.
I know. I was sad too.
All right, are we expecting anybody else to come here regarding the buffer discussion, Brian, that you know of?
Chair, no, I'm not
Okay.
aware of anybody coming by today.
Sure. Nor am I.
Hmm?
I've had
Okay.
conversations and
Okay, everything is, okay, I didn't know if we should,
people have vetted out last week.
if this is
Yeah,
something,
I think so. I think,
okay. All right, well, let's just, we'll just go ahead and move into it then. It's not a public hearing, so. Good morning, Brian and Jenny.
Good morning.
good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Yeah, what you have before you is a resolution regarding the buffer zone, and I think there was, as Commissioner Moser just said, I think we had input from Soil and Water and the Buffalo Red Watershed, and of course Wild Rice Watershed had weighed in on this. We had Commissioner Gross was up there at their meeting when they had attended that. And so I think there was a sense, at least that's what we sensed, from this board that the county wanted to accept the enforcement responsibilities and then work with our entities to handle this on the local level as much as possible. So what you have before you is a resolution, and I said in my memo that we stole the wordage from another county that was provided to us by, I think, I can't remember who sent them this one, but I think Bruce Albright sent this over, and I'm not sure if this is Wilkin County or Becker County. I think it's Becker County that accepted it in this wordage, and provided it to Jenny for any, because it does reference laws and things in there, so I asked her to weigh in on it, and she's here today to answer any questions that you may have in regards to the legal aspects of it.
Okay. Jenny, do you have any opening comments you'd like
No,
to
I
make?
think that, I mean, that's really about it, and we talked about it last week
Right.
with all the players here, and sounded like the Buffalo Red might be passing their own resolution. I don't know if anybody's aware if that did or did not happen, but,
I called them this morning, but haven't heard back yet. so,
Okay.
I know that they're.
Would you say that again? They passed on it?
know that they were going to be passing their
approving.
own resolution.
Okay.
For the ditches.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
completely how this is meant
Right.
to be set up.
But Wild Rice was opting out, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So,
We received a letter from the Clay County Farm Bureau,
Yes.
and I think they, in their letter, they kind of said what I think most county commissioners would agree with throughout the state, and that's the fact that this is a law that we would have just soon not have to deal with, but it's come down from the state. We're certainly all supportive of clean water, which is part of what this buffer thing is supposed to get to, but is it really the best scenario? No, but under the circumstance, it's the law, and we have to follow it. And so I think for the public's interest too, the Farm Bureau said that they don't particularly care for the buffer law, but if we have to deal with it, they would rather have it be dealt with on a local level than having the state do it. And I think it's kind of what we as commissioners have been hearing from our landowners, and we agree with that. So I just wanted to point that out, that that was quite a lengthy letter that we received from the Farm Bureau in support of local control. And so I think that's what we're looking at doing today. Frank?
I had a question. I mean, say we take over support, local control, the county takes over. Who enforces it? Soil and Water Conservation probably, or the Water District probably goes out there and checks it. And is Jenny gonna go out there and say, hey, you?
That's why we created that buffer committee. That's what we're gonna vet out, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and Mr. Chair, that's why you have a retired chief of police on your county commission, is to handle that enforcement. He can't get it out of his blood. So
Oh,
he might as
we
well
were
let him
actually
use it.
gonna refer it to the marshal, the retired marshal.
Yeah, we
So-
thought maybe a retired marshal would do it.
Yeah, well, no, but to answer your
Does he get an ATV
question,
to drive around?
there you go. To answer your question legitimately, it is the county board that enforces that, and as Commissioner Mojo said, that's why the committee was formed, then to make a recommendation that if someone is not abiding by it or cooperating in things, then the request would come from the committee to the county board to officially take some action. So it's you folks that would then ask for that, but it would be a
The one who
long,
would,
petty
the one who would
process to
probably
get-
ultimately send out the nasty letter would be our county attorney's office.
Probably.
Possibly.
I think of it very similar to any zoning or
Right.
environmental violation that we have currently. We have an ordinance, and the ordinance says, here's what the county can do if you're violating our ordinance. And we have steps, I think for most cases, Tim sends out a letter first to say, please bring this into compliance, and then if it doesn't, then I get involved and I send out a letter saying you're gonna be cited. And then if we don't, then we work with the sheriff's department. So, that's one example of a process, and we'll have to come up with whatever the process will be for this type of violation.
And that's the purpose of the committee, which Commissioner Mojo and yourself are on, right?
Correct.
Was to
Yep.
develop that, and then ultimately a ordinance?
Ultimately, in my mind, I think that's where we're headed. And, rather than, I think Tim and the planning office will be involved, but we will also bring in soil and water and the
Right.
watershed. So we're gonna have a different process with all those involved parties that will make good sense for enforcement.
And Mr. Chair, I think also Commissioner Mojo did invite Highway, because they are our
Yes, okay,
engineers, and we
yeah,
like their
yeah.
official
Very
opinion
good.
on
Yep.
things along
Yep,
those
yep,
lines.
that makes perfect sense, yeah. Okay, so what's the,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2017-23.
all right, we have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? That's
And this is
carries.
required to be filed by tomorrow by 4:30, and we'll make sure and
Okay.
take care of that.
Thank you. Thank you,
right,
Brian.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Jenny. Okay, we're early for West Central. I wonder, could we have 15 minutes till our next, could we do that closed session thing at this point?
Yeah, we can do it at any time.
All right, why don't we do that now then, since we're ahead of time, so, well, yeah, and okay, I think what we want to do is read this entire thing here, the purpose of the closure. Grant, if you could, I think they wanted us to read what the purpose was.
Closed session pursuant to Minnesota statute 13D-06 subdivision 3, paragraph C and paragraph 1, to consider the asking price for real property to be sold by government entity.
All right, we have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We are now in closed session.
Like,
Okay, we will move on with our 9 o'clock item, and it's an update on West Central Initiative Programs and Services, and we have with us Tom McSparron and Greg Wagner. Greg, are you going to start? or-
I think I'll start. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
All right. Good morning.
Again, my name is Greg Wagner. I'm the Business and Economic Development Director for West Central Initiative, and I think this is the 7th year we've done this visit. We took a break last year as we were developing the new 5-year economic development strategy called the SEDS, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. So that's a regional plan that West Central Initiative develops for the 9 counties we serve on behalf of the Federal Economic Development Administration. And so that plan, they changed the guidance and the guidelines and regulations with how that plan should look and what it should contain. And so it was really definitely a major rewrite. We basically took the old plans, set them aside, and developed a whole new condensed plan that was more usable and reader friendly. And you've seen these before, and this is so new that we didn't even have a chance to get it to the printers yet for a nice color copy. But this is just kind of the economic snapshot for specifically to Clay County with the most updated information. It says 2016, and that's because a lot of the data that we work with is a year behind from when it is released. So the county continues to grow, as does the region. Clay County is one of actually it is the fastest growing county in the region. It is also probably the youngest, where the region is seeing the 65 and over population kind of increase as a percentage, and that will continue to be evident until 2040, where it really starts to taper off, actually 2035. But probably due to primarily the college population here in Clay County, and the attraction of the metro area for younger folks is one of the 2 reasons why Clay County has kind of a younger population. As with previous plans, or kind of the not really necessarily the flavor of the times, but definitely a sign of the times. You can see on the sheet there's really 6 things the region and the state are facing as economic development challenges, or things that economic development should focus on, and that's for a larger workforce, housing affordability and availability, need for increased wages, increased broadband access and coverage. Childcare is definitely a top discussion amongst everybody's convenings. And then one thing that I continue to discuss, but we're still seeing this is not necessarily the case due to the lower cost of gas and fuel and energy, but we're going to see energy costs rise. That's a guarantee, and that will affect how our businesses are able to do business. So you can see, the top employment industries for Clay County are educational services, healthcare, social assistance, retail trade, accommodation and food service, and public administration. So very strong average weekly wages, right on actually most of the industries. The top 2 industries definitely on tap with the regional average weekly wage. Poverty has declined, and we're looking into why there was such a reduction from 2014 to 2015 poverty rates, but that's a good sign of the continued improvement of the economy, that people are moving out of poverty. And unemployment is really tapered off. I mean, we're at what we're gonna see for kind of that natural, normal unemployment at 3.7%, 3.9% is hovering right around just under 4%. So depending on any questions, I don't want to take any more of your time today.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Tom?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I always appreciate the chance to come out and give you this brief update, and we'll be happy to answer any questions when I am done. There's certain points in the evolution of any organization when it makes sense to take a step back and look at current programs and services with a new perspective and determine if there are new and innovative approaches to help meet the challenges and needs of the people that the organization serves. And as we enter our 31st year of service to the people of our region, West Central Initiative is at one of those points. With new leadership often comes changes and opportunities. And with the naming of Anna Washesha as the new president CEO, it's given our staff a chance to discuss all of our programs with her and together reflect on why we do things the way we do and explore to see if there are new or better ways to approach the areas of economic development, community development, and promoting philanthropy. And I want to take just a couple minutes to give you some examples of those new approaches. As Greg mentioned, our staff travels throughout the region, and one of the main challenges we hear is the availability of quality childcare. Last summer, WCI made $70,000 available for forgivable childcare loans. Those funds were distributed quickly and impacted more than 130 slots in home and center-based providers. Because of that success, this year, thanks to a $50,000 grant from the Minnesota Department of Economic and Employment, or DEED, and an additional $51,000 from WCI, 31 more of the forgivable loans have been made to providers all across the region. Workforce training has been a part of WCI's programming for many years. This year, in response to what we were hearing from manufacturers, the newly named Best Force program is focusing on manufacturers with 150 employees or less. This approach makes training opportunities available to many more workers and will help make them more efficient and the businesses more profitable. In another new area for WCI, we've launched a website to help businesses develop plans to help them prepare for potential disasters. StayOpenForBiz.com includes videos of businesses that have survived disasters such as floods, tornadoes, lightning strikes, and burst water pipes. The website intends to motivate, refine, and improve a disaster recovery plan. And since 25% of businesses that close because of a disaster never reopen their doors, this is an important effort. This site is made available because of WCI's involvement with the Philanthropic Preparedness, Resiliency, and Emergency Partnership, or PPREP. WCI staff have worked with 3 more communities and encouraged them to look at new ways to ensure the safety of their children as they arrive and leave their local schools. Safe Routes to Schools plans were then completed in those communities, bringing the total to 15 throughout the region so far. The philanthropy team has developed and begun distributing a new quarterly electronic newsletter targeted at financial advisors. The aim of the newsletter is to offer suggestions to the advisors that they can pass on to the clients who want to leave a legacy in their community and our region. Charitable giving tools and local examples of families who have stepped forward and made a difference through their gifts will be highlighted in each issue. WCI staff have reevaluated and expanded our efforts in Live Wide Open, an online marketing campaign to help brand our region, showcasing the opportunities in careers, lifestyle, and family-friendly activities while living close to family and friends, and the beautiful lakes and landscapes offered by West Central Minnesota. The website hosts testimonials from residents stating why they've chosen to live and work here. And if you have a story you would like to share or know someone whose story would add to these pages, please contact Sherry, our communications director at the WCI offices. We know that our past successes, our new programs, and the impact that we continue to have in our region would not be possible without the support we receive from the counties, cities, corporations, and individuals who share in our vision and our mission. That support allows us to continue to address the critical needs in economic and community development. And as you begin your budgeting process for 2018, we ask that you consider continuing your support with the request that is also included in your packet. We thank you for the confidence that you've shown through your past support, and we're proud to call Clay County a partner in each of these efforts. As always, our pledge to you is to continue the careful stewardship of each gift and every dollar. And before I open it up for questions, I want to extend an invitation to you. On Thursday, July 13th, we're going to be hosting a Welcoming Anna Back to the Lakes Country at the Bigwood Event Center in Fergus Falls. Weather permitting, we'll be out on the patio. It's from 4 to 6:30 that day. RSVPs are not required. However, if you are planning on attending, it would be helpful so that we make sure that we got enough food for everybody, if you'd let us know that you wanted to attend. And with that, I will try to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? So we have your request on the funding, and like usual, you know, we go through our budget process,
Yep.
and that will be submitted as a request there. And
Okay.
and our preliminary process starts in July. We're coming up shortly where we start hearing everything, and then by September, when we do the preliminary levy, we will usually let all of our external agencies know of the funding. So
Okay.
you'll probably hear from us by July, or by September, I think we would have a good idea.
Okay,
All right?
that'll be fine. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right. Rhonda? We are ready for you.
On this meeting on July, whatever, 13th, whoever the alternate is, I can't make that, I'm gonna be gone that. Someone wants to go to that.
Okay.
What's the name of that group?
There's entry day of the fair, so
West Central. I am the alternate. No, that's aging. I'm sorry.
Who is the alternate for?
I know.
All right, good morning, Rhonda. You have a couple of items for us today. The first is you're requesting approval to replace the collections officer due to retirement.
Yes, and I do have a handout for that request, and I apologize for.
Sandy, has it been 12 years since you came for a new employee? Is that
No, I did look, and it's been 5,
Oh.
but that was an internal transfer, so, that's
It's been
not.
a while.
It has been a while, and in the collections area, it's been, I want to say,
Oh, gosh.
18 years, something like that.
Oh.
A really long time, so this is a tough loss.
Yeah.
Yes, we're
Okay,
losing some real expertise.
well, let's hear about it.
Okay, so we have a retirement in our collections unit, and so her last day in the office is planned to be next Thursday, July 6th. She has a little bit of time that she's going to extend her date, I want to say a couple weeks. But so we're basically asking to replace Corinne in her position in the collections unit. And we came last week when Sandy did her unit update, she talked a little bit more in detail about what the collections folks do. So I'll let Sandy just talk a little bit about that. But bottom line is we are asking if we can replace her full-time position.
Morning, Sandy.
Hello. Okay, so with the county collections, they work pretty independently. It's, we're collecting monies for the county, the state, and the federal government. We have some direction from the state, but county's really kind of pulled together to create the program.
So fortunately, we do have a second collections officer who will be here to help with the transition and training and that kind of thing. But they're collecting for public assistance, they're collecting for some county debt for other departments. It's a busy position. And then she also did some work for child support. So it's kind of necessary to the unit for us to continue functioning, and I'm hoping that you approve replacing it.
The one thing that Sandy and I talked about is there are some other needs within her unit, particularly in the support enforcement aid area. Our support enforcement aides are on the same pay grade as the collections. And so we've talked about tweaking that job description just a bit to include some additional tasks that would fall under the support enforcement aid to try to help in that area as well. So we do intend to look at that a bit and see if we can make some adjustments, but which would help that area as well. So
I think when that time comes, it'd be good for you to run that through the Personal Issues Committee too.
oh, sure, yes, okay.
Before we come to this board, I guess.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I guess I was thinking that if you approved replacing this position, that would just allow us some discretion to add some of those tasks.
Oh.
Given that they're on the same.
Okay, well, I guess that's a.
Okay. We could work that through, Darren, if you
Yeah, I
approve,
think
but-
that's something that falls within the scope. Then
Right.
you should go to that.
Yeah, we would make sure that any adjustments we made to that PDQ, we'd be working through Darren. But like I said, both of those positions fall on the same grade. It would just be adding a few additional tasks. So it wouldn't be any new position, it would just be. Yeah.
So you're looking to replace this one, are you recommending backfill?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we would appreciate the opportunity to backfill if there was internal interest.
Okay, all right.
I'll make a motion to approve the request with backfill.
All right,
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Okay,
Great,
that's done.
thank you.
Okay, then your next item is the request for accounts receivable write-off for 2016.
Right, annually, we have been coming to the board for approval of the debt write-off. So all of those debts that Sandy's unit has been seeking to collect, that we've determined based on our policy meet the threshold for debt write-off. So I'll let Sandy talk through with you those items that we have from 2016.
Okay, great.
So, we started this back in November of 2014 and had a very, very large write-off that first time. Now, we're getting more to numbers that I think will be more ongoing in this area. For any amount that's over $2,000, we need board approval. And so this year we have 5 cases in the area of detox totaling $25,761 that have qualified as being uncollectible. They go back to 2008. We have done everything that we can to try and collect them and have determined that we're not going to be able to collect these for different reasons. And then we have just one case in the foster care area for $2,487.20 that we've tried for over 6 years to collect on, and we're not having success with that one either. So I'm asking for approval to write off those 2 amounts in the accounts receivable area.
One of the things for the benefit of Commissioner Haney, because this is your first time
Sure.
dealing with this
Sorry.
and hearing about this, when we talk about these numbers, I think, and the public also needs to know that these are expected expenses, and they're actually part of our budget process.
Correct.
So it's not like this is something new. I remember the first year when the state said we now had to go through this process and stating it, that there was a concern from the public that their taxes were going to go up drastically because of the large write-offs. Well, the fact of the matter is this has been done on an annual basis as part of our budgeting process. They're dollars that we never expected to get, but we have to try.
Correct. Yeah, and they
So-
are for mandated services.
Right.
So, we're mandated to provide detox for those who need it. But, in circumstances, we do try to collect if we can. And we do receive some revenues,
Yeah,
but in
the
some-
process requires us to show it as a debt.
Yes, yes.
What type of collections are you doing for foster care? Don't we normally pay them?
No, this would be from the parents. When a child goes into foster care, then we're looking to assess a parental fee if
Oh,
a
I
parent
see.
has an ability to contribute to the cost of that placement. Or if the child receives Social Security benefits, we can redirect the Social Security benefit to help offset the county cost.
All right. Any more questions?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the write-off. And a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Should I just give this to them?
Yes, yes.
Rhonda?
I did have a request, and if the board would want me to reschedule for next Tuesday, I did just receive a resignation this morning in our child protection unit. One of our newer staff has decided it's a little too much to handle, and understandably so. So, if the board would want to act on that today, that'd be great. If not, I can come back next Tuesday as well.
Well, we know it's there. We're not spending any new money here,
No.
so I.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the request. Might as well save the
Yes.
time and headache of the
Thank
other
you. I
paper.
appreciate that.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, motion carried. All right,
Thank you very
thank you.
much. A week makes a difference in that unit.
All right, Joe. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. We also have a retirement in the building maintenance area. Gary Michaelbus has retired. His position was building maintenance technician, general maintenance tech, so I would request to fill that position. It's a budgeted position with some anticipated cost savings with the new hire.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Joe, I just want to comment that I realize the grounds are a little bit crazy.
Yeah, they are.
But you've really done a nice job. Everything that within your control is
Yeah.
really looking great. So kudos to your staff. You've done a great job with what you've got this summer.
Appreciate that.
I will-
I will pass it on to them.
I was gonna say the same thing, and I know, you're dealing with an awful lot of different things, and I know we're looking at long-term solutions for your boiler plant and all that kind of stuff, and thank you for your time
Yeah.
that you're putting into that. You and your staff is really,
I was
really
gonna
good.
mention the 4-H at the 4-H or Extension Committee meeting. They complimented you and helped them with their flowers and stuff like that, water in the flowers.
Oh, okay.
So, appreciate that.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Good work, thank you. All right, that's, our next item is consider moving of the July 18th board meeting because of a scheduled conflict, and Brian, you want to? Sure. You're the one that's on here to give the, I mean, I could do it too, but.
Oh, that's all I was thinking. You just go ahead and carry on the discussion.
Well, we have been notified that there is a hearing scheduled in St. Paul Federal Court on that day, the 18th, and it's in regards to the FM diversion project, and I know the Diversion Authority has been requested to be at that, which two of our members, myself and Commissioner Wayland, are members of, and so we just thought that, and quite frankly, that's an open case where any commissioner could go to, because it still is a public setting. But anyway, so we wanted to look at an alternative date to the 18th, and it'd be appropriate to do it now. I don't know, had we had anything scheduled for that day to this point?
And I don't believe so.
On the 18th? Okay, there are no public hearings or anything like that were scheduled?
Other than the picnic.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, you know,
I mean, that's,
there's
That
still
can go on.
commissioners that could flip
that can
burgers.
go on, no problem.
Yeah, all right. But it's kind of, I think it's kind of an important thing that they want us there for. And plus, there's going to be another meeting trying to be set up while we're there. To
I
talk
think we'll
with
have to move the pick committee too then. Isn't that scheduled for that
We
day
have a
too, the
meeting
pick
on
committee?
Oh, yeah, we'll have to change that too then.
Can we do it on Monday, our board meeting then, on the 17th?
That would work. That'd be a good day.
Does that work for everybody?
Tuesday's better for me, but that's fine if we can move it.
Monday's fine.
Well, if it's just Kevin and I are going, and the three of you are here, you can still do the board meeting on Tuesday, I guess. It doesn't, I mean, that's.
Honestly, I don't know, Monday's fine too, whoever's, you can.
Doesn't make any difference to me.
Okay, I'll make a motion to move the July 18 meeting to July 17th at 8:30.
All right, so July 17th, we have a motion to reset. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. I'm just looking at my calendar here. Make sure that.
Now, will you come up with a different meeting for the pick committee then, or? Whether it's Monday?
Look at the schedule and see, I think Cassie is doing something.
Okay,
Well, could we also have that same day?
you'll have to check.
Yeah, okay, all right, we can deal with that. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm glad to provide all that input.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Okay, we'll move into our committee reports. And Mr. Gross, let's start with you today.
Okay, I started out went to Heartland Trail. The senators and representatives, Eakin, Margaret, and Lean were all there at that meeting. They plan on requesting $200,000 for the Heartland Trail for redesign of it, to get it going so they can get funding for that. There's a difference between whether it should be a state trail or a regional trail. If it's a state trail, the DNR would take care of the maintenance of it, and also if it's a state trail, you have to allow snowmobiles on it. So that's the.
I'm still betting on that 2 billion for the diversion over that 200,000 for the Heartland Trail, but that's just my guess on it, so.
So I don't know where, I mean, like I say, they're gonna see which way it's gonna go, whether we have to work for a state trail or a regional trail. If you have a regional trail, you have more control really as far as what's gonna be allowed on there and stuff like that. If you go with state trail to get funding, you have to go by their rules. And also it's discussed that as we put roads into that area that we're initially looking at the trail, that we should also put probably easements in it, which we did in the one area, to put an easement in for the trail too, to include that as part of the plat. So, the county extension, Minnesota Extension meeting, which was held Wednesday. There again, we mostly talked about the fair, which is July 13th through the 16th. They're looking at fair cleanup day, July 6th, if anybody's interested, at 5 o'clock on that Thursday. I'm sure they appreciate all the help they can get there. They hired 2 new interns that are helping out over summer. They gave a report of what they're functioning, what they're doing. Historical Society Wednesday afternoon. Primarily there, we introduced some new members there. Warren Hildes was put on the board there, a new member. Jim Steen's a new member. We talked a lot about the gift policy, you know, as far as when someone gives a gift to the Historical Society, that they sort of release all you know, you give it to them and not without expectations of getting it back or putting any attachments to it, so they're going over the gift policy there. Diversion meeting, we went over, they selected 3 finalists for the executive director. The interviews, I can't remember when the interview's gonna be, probably you got that when the interviews, they're coming up sometime, and, but they got the 3 finalists out there, and
I think it's July 10th, I think, is, they're still trying to work with this.
and they went over the regular reports, land acquisition status report, you know, how they're doing as far as land acquisition and stuff like that, so, probably you've got some more on it, you're more acquainted with that, committee, but, that's the
Okay,
meetings I had.
thank you. Commissioner Haney?
I attended on Tuesday last week the Adult Mental Health Local Advisory Committee, and one of the salient points came out as the term group residential housing has now been changed to housing support on a statewide basis. And that is to make it more inclusive. And we had a report on the crisis intervention training, which was well attended with police and healthcare professionals. And then we received reports from stakeholders or providers, CCRI, Solutions, Lakeland, Clay County, et cetera, all gave updates. And then they had the election of officers. Nicole England was reelected as the secretary, and Tricia Hopper was elected co-chair. Tricia is a director at Connections.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you. Last week I attended the Planning Commission. We had a reapproval of a gravel permit for Mark Sand and Gravel in Tansom Township. We approved a new interim use permit for Turner Sand and Gravel in the southern corner of Humboldt Township. There was a application for an interim use permit for a wedding event center in Morgan Township. That application was tabled until the township had issued a 1-year moratorium on all new commercial recreation uses. So while those are separate, I think our board really weighed that heavily. And then there was a conditional use permit to allow a 14-use or unit commercial storage property just outside the city limits of Holly. I also attended a strategic planning session, all-day session for Lakes and Prairies, where we really are in the beginning stages of talking a little bit about succession planning, which is something I think we will need to look heavily at as we've got a lot of retirements coming on. But it was really beneficial, and we're also looking at the brand of our name. Not a whole lot of people can think about community action and know exactly what community action does in the community because it's Lakes and Prairies, and I've commented that we have Prairie Lake Solid Waste and I have Lakeland Mental Health, and a lot of times those names get mumble jumbled. So I think we decided to have a subcommittee to talk a little bit about consolidating and simplifying our name to something to community action. So that will more to come on that. The next day I had the Lakes and Prairies board meeting. We did meet at the new facility at Bellesley. That's coming along really nicely. I think that's really a good addition to that program. And everything seems to be going well. The audit is complete and looks great. And then yesterday I attended Lakeland Mental Health in Fergus Falls. We had an update from Clifton Larson Allen on our audit. It really was a phenomenal report, done very well. They're moving forward on purchasing some Moorhead land around the Safari Theater to expand their campus, and we had some more discussion on the 2% increase that they had discussed in the area of psychiatry. Becker County and Clay County and Grant County commissioners all feel that while Lakeland has seen positive margin growth, it would be inappropriate to bring a request for an increase back to our board. And I think that more to come on that. My request was that we don't address it for another year, as it's already too late to get any increases back to our boards. And that concludes my, oh, that doesn't conclude my report. We are talking solar panels. As you all know, we decided to go forward and purchase some solar arrays for capture the sun. And it was asked of us if we could come with some sort of slogan or name saying to be on the plaque that they put next to it. And we had some wordsmiths throw something quick together. And I would be seeking an approval from you.
Are these two different?
There are two different ones.
Oh, I see, okay.
To see what you prefer.
Oh, two different ones.
It's up to you. The one I like the best was to have the "and its citizens" included with our names. I felt like it was their investment as well, and
More inclusive.
so I think we need to get this. We need to have an approval of this so we can get to them right away.
Why-
Our consensus I was hoping for, yeah.
Why you specify the youth of Clay County? Is this, if we say the citizens of Clay County, that would cover it?
Well,
They'd be included.
what I personally felt that it was an investment for the future. The solar panels would be a measure of that, and then "and its citizens" would be because they were investing in it, as we all are. It's up to you.
Well, I definitely want my preference would be the citizens, include the citizens.
Mine too.
Me too.
Mine as well.
Perfect. So,
You need a motion on
the
that?
youth of its citizens, the youth of Clay County and its citizens.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Number two then, up at top.
Yep,
The one that you and I prefer number one, they want number two.
Yep. That's fine.
Just clarified it.
Well, all right, there you have it. It's kind of a
That
consensus.
concludes my
All right,
reports.
All right. Commissioner Whalen.
Let's see, I was with Commissioner Campbell and Brian last week at the jail transition training, and it was interesting. Makes you think how much there actually is to get done in the next year before the jail opens up. So a lot of information, and the jail staff, I think, are doing a good job at keeping a handle on that, and I think they'll be prepared when the time comes. So, and then let's see, yesterday we had a jail facility and LEC update, design update, and see what the progress is there. And I think everything's moving along pretty good. There wasn't much on the contingency payout sheets, which is a good thing. So unlike last meetings we've had where there seems to be quite a bit there. So we are scheduled for an update for the board on, what was it, July
11th.
11th, okay. July 11th. And then I was in St. Paul for a AMC board meeting on Friday, and a lot of discussion there on their facility and whether they should stay there or look for something else. They're getting cramped for space, but I think they're going to try and, I think the end result was they're going to try and expand that facility they have. And then some discussion on dues increases for all the counties and members, and I didn't really think that was a big issue. They've got a formula that is a small, less than a percentage point each year for dues increases to keep up with everything. So, yeah, that was it for me.
Okay, last week, we did have a meeting last week with a couple of members of the Cass County Commission and their county administrator and Sheriff Laney regarding their involvement with our regional juvenile center, and you know, talking about the overcrowding issues there, and we talked about some, you know, a long-term strategy and trying to find out from Cass County if they're interested in that, and they most certainly are, based on that meeting. And so we're going to continue moving forward with some ideas and come up with some financial plans to see if we can't make that all work, and then give a presentation to all the member counties in July, and then hopefully come up with something by October.
You know, Kevin,
Yep.
in thoughts, because juvenile's been brought into some of our out-of-home placement discussion, and so just based on those discussions, part of a thought that I had is now that you've had an informal commitment basically from Cass County, right? It may be appropriate to look at having all of the partners, including us, buy full beds. I've always had issue with that small percentage of a share, and part of the way I look at it is I need a car for 5 days a week. I'm not going to buy a car only based on 5 days a week. I'm going to buy a car to have all the time, and so I know that that's an increase for some of these counties, but I think that will really help us going forward to know exactly what we need, and I know you will talk a lot about that.
You know, we've had that discussion, and I think there certainly is some agreement with what you're saying there, and as we go through, and for example, if obviously we're going to have to do something in the future, because we're just like our current jail facility, we're full all the time, and it's 2017, and when you're talking 20 years out, what are we going to be doing? And so we're trying to make those preparations and include in that some of those exact discussions. And probably what's going to happen is we would have to change the way we operate with that cooperative service agreement. And what you bring up is right on time, because it's something that we agree with that. Now, whether it's this idea of buying an eighth of a bed or a quarter of a bed, I think that's where we need to get away from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you brought that up.
And I think that's going to be growing pains across the board, including us. I mean, you know, so.
Clay County is going to have some of the biggest growing pains of all.
Yeah, we have to work on that issue. We've been talking about it, but we're trying to be sensitive to the smaller counties too, because when we did need them, they stuck with us, and we did need them to purchase an eighth of a bed when we were making some of the changes we did. So yeah, it's definitely something we have to figure out a resolution to.
So, but anyway, it was a really good meeting that we had with them, and I think they're looking forward to cooperating with us on some long-term plans, which is good. We did have last week we did have a Minnesota Diversion Authority sub-member group meeting to discuss issues as they pertain to Minnesota. We met at Moore City Hall, and one of the issues that came up that was the contract that we have with Frederickson and Byron is coming due, and that's a contract that the Minnesota members wanted the Diversion Authority to have, and that's coming up, or it's expiring at the end of June. So I'm going to kind of jump to the other thing that Commissioner Gross, from his report, then we did recommend that the Diversion Authority renew that contract, and that recommendation had, because of the way it works, it went to the Finance Committee for approval, and then it'll go on to the full board, so that we as Minnesota entities, as we move forward and we're looking for state dollars for flood mitigation and flood control, we felt it's important to keep that in place. And so other than that, I also then had the public outreach meeting, and we had our typical, it's basically a review of what had transpired the month before and some things that are coming up. There were outreach meetings that were going to be in Oxbow and Pleasant Township in June. Those meetings have been held by now. The Land Management Committee meeting, we talked more about property acquisitions moving forward, and probably the most significant action item that we took was on the NDSU ag study that had previously been done, and that was also then talked about at the Diversion Authority. That ag study was done, but now there's been, since the Clomar is about complete, there's been new scientific data that's now out there that was not available at the time NDSU did the original study. So we are going to be asking NDSU to update that study with the new technical data to make sure that everything that they had in the report still meets with the new technical data that they did not previously have. We had a solid waste advisory committee meeting last Thursday, and we did meet out at the highway department, out at the landfill, and we got a tour of that facility. The SWAC committee got a tour of that facility. It was exciting to see. We had a interesting presentation by a gentleman by the name of Ken Naylor, and he has Operation Tidy Can. And this guy, he does a lot of biking, and he's been going around, and as he's been biking, he's been collecting cans just in bike paths and all these places where he's gone, and he brought in and he showed us pictures of the cans he collected, and it was just an amazingly huge pile. And so he's actually created little containers that he can bolt to signs or something like that, where people can pick up cans and they can just put the cans in these little containers. It was a neat deal on the part of somebody who has a passion for that. We discussed there's some new requirements regarding landfill air permits requirements, and so Marlon Makowick from what's the name?
Wink.
Wink, yeah, thank you. Wink Associates gave us an update on that. And then Diversion Authority, we've gone through that. Then I did sit in on, as Commissioner Whalen said, as a matter of fact, here's a picture of the cans, just the one guy collected, just off of bike trails.
He has a trailer or something that he...
Well, he didn't do this all at once, but he'd bring them back and he'd put them on his garage floor. And here's his tidy cans that he's made, and you can see here there's one bolted in an area. This happens to be in my old home area of Oakport Township. There's one there.
That goes on a road sign then along the trail?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's, and I think he's...
Can you bolt them on county?
Well, these are on township things, and I think there's some research going on that to make sure that we don't have any liability issues, but he's
I think it's a good idea, whether
yeah.
you can do it or not.
Right. And then the jail transition team, I would agree with Commissioner Whalen that these people, you're going to get a firsthand report on it on the 11th from the 3 members, but the amount of work that they have to do is just remarkable, the amount of hours. Yesterday, our construction update, Commissioner Whalen gave that, and I won't go into any more detail than what he did on that one, other than things are really moving. I think we're going to, by July, I think we'll start to see some walls going up and steel going up, and it's going to start looking like buildings pretty soon. So that concludes mine. Brian?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. You've discussed the meeting with Cass County. Just to mention, I guess, some of the meetings, but Jenny Schmaraja and I met a few times on the sales tax paperwork, and as we notified you, we got that all completed and sent in. I did put in a call this morning, or last night, I guess it was, to Penny at the Department of Revenue, just to make sure everything is in place. So we'll follow up on that and continue to track that. Transition team training, I attended that as well, and that's been discussed plenty. Did have a meeting in regard to with Rhonda and Lori and Janelle from probation in regards to the reentry program. If you remember right, there was a presentation that you eliminated one of those positions, and fortunately Steve was able to hire that person that was laid off, but the other one has run into some funding problems as well, and the collaborative is not going to fund it to the degree that Janelle thought they would be, but Rhonda is looking at kind of revamping some of the program with the truancy program and using some of the dollars in the transition fee. So that'll be brought to you a little bit later, but we met on that, quite an extensive discussion. You have already talked about the Minnesota Diversion Board representation that was held at meeting. Also had a second meeting with Janelle from probation in regards to the office space that they rent over at the juvenile center. And you have heard, I think, for a year or two that they do not have adequate space in that juvenile center. And if they were to stay there, they would have to do a lot of remodeling, and of course DOC would pay for that remodeling. And frankly, along with the discussion of the juvenile center, if plans go forward, or should I say when plans go forward, depending upon how it's modified, we need to do something. So they would then be out of that space, and I think you want them to stay on campus. I know you looked at that with the new law enforcement center, putting them in there, felt that that was not the time or the monies available to add that on there. So we discussed what would be the best location for them on campus. And we'll have to work through that. We'll have to have a lot of input from you or approval from you, certainly. But the Family Service Center is, there's kind of that wing over there that we've talked about, but that might mean moving some people around and things. So it's in the very early stages, but I think you need to be aware of the fact that we are looking at some options there, and we'll keep you informed in regards to advancements on that. Diversion Board was held last Thursday. That's already been talked about. Along with the two big projects, the correctional facility and the law enforcement center construction projects that are going on. Of course, we're doing the parking lot out front. It's no surprise. You're well aware of it. You approved it. We did talk about the fact that there was a lot of bad soil in the bottom of that, and they had to take out probably an extra 3 feet. It was dug pretty deep, and you were aware of that. And then this past weekend, or towards the end of the week, we ran into some improper driveway angles that were placed in, and that concrete had to be taken out. I don't know what I can do other than to inform you about them, because Highway is running that project. They have a person on site every day doing measurements and checking the samples and things, but as to what the additional costs are and who's responsible for them, I don't have an answer for you on it. Just that Highway is doing it the same way they do their road projects, and they look for alternatives to offset costs, and they look for the best way to solve it. And they probably can't come in with dollar figures for your approval until the project is just about done with, unless it's a major issue that would want to stop the project. So I guess we'll try to do the best we can, and let's keep you informed that there's some things going on in there. They're looking for alternatives, offset costs, maybe a little less concrete. It's slated for 6 inches. Maybe they can go 5 inches on the bed and save some dollars on that, if that's an acceptable amount for the engineering purposes and things. So that's just all discussion points right now. So if you have suggestions as to how you'd like to be better kept informed on it, or if I can, we'll certainly do that. But we're doing the best we can and keep it moving along, I guess. And these are some fairly costly adjustments. They will be in the well, I think the dirt turned out to be better than what we thought, and we were guessing originally about $20,000 additional, and it could be as high as $70,000, and then, but they didn't take out quite as much, so it's not near that cost, and they're looking for the offset on it. So those are the kinds of discussions that we're having on it. I met with Nick from Construction Engineers also on the contingencies breakdown that we have, and I think that was talked about a little bit. I think we've worked out a little better place to talk about that. And I'll just use one example. The parking lot, the northwest parking lot that's being done, Construction Engineers or Klein McCarthy is not engaged in the design or the construction of that, but yet it does relate to the new jail and the new law enforcement center, primarily the new jail. But we really, it's $167,000 that's costing for the lighting and the security cameras and the underground thing, and we talked about that earlier. But we don't feel that should be in the contingency for the jail or for the law enforcement center. So that was a big discussion point yesterday. So that is being brought down. And I think too, Mr. Chair, if I may, when you have the update to the board on the 11th, I should probably, or Lori and I should give a financial update too, so that we can be assured that we think everything is still on track and being covered. And the bonding, we talked a little bit about that when we went forward with the bonding, but probably should give an update at that time as well. So anyway, and then I had a meeting with yesterday morning as well with Georgia and Julie and the architects and things, and that went fairly well. Georgia was concerned about the placement of the janitorial closets and the water that's available and things like that. It's some small things, but everything needs to be attended to, and that went well as well. And then we had the construction meeting in the parking lots. Oh, and as far as, I hadn't made copies, and I asked Darren to make copies of this. This is the look ahead for, the 3-week look ahead for the schedule for the correctional facility and the law enforcement center, and we went through that yesterday as well.
Thank you.
So that's just for, I guess, your information and review, and do you have any questions on it? I agree with what your chair stated, is that everything is going along really quite well. It's boy, the law enforcement center just hasn't had any snags. You know, the big snag of the tanks at the correctional facility, and then we had some pilings that had to go in this northeast corner, and that was a safety concern because they were going down quite deep with it, and that was that slowed them down a little bit. But boy, they're doing all their underground plumbing over in the new correctional facility, and the same with the law enforcement center. So they'll be smoothing that out, and they're just moving along really rapidly. Things are going well. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
No, nothing, thank you.
Well, you can review these. If you have questions on any of this, they can just meet with you or any of us.
Sure, any of us, yeah.
All right, you will be adjourned.